Hello everyone, so Casesandmaterials did a video response to me. Apart from the word moron in giant letters at the bottom of the screen, he was more civil than he usually is, and to be fair, his video did make me look really bad, but that's pretty easy to do when you quote mine and remove sections of the video which counter what you're saying. And he put more effort in than he usually does with this kind of thing. He did the classic ponage style of splicing up my video and replying to small sections at a time. I'll be doing the same thing as well, and to make it clear which sections are new and which are old, I'm going to be speeding up the old video slightly, which will increase its pitch, and the new sections will be negative like this. Anyway, on with the show. Guys, so this is a response to the train wreck, which was Casesandmaterials' video to Renee Hendrick.
Oh no, a response. Should I be scared?
Unlike you, I have the courage to not block people after one comment I don't like.
No way! You're so brave! Wow, champion! I can just see you running into burning buildings and saving people in distress. Go James! Tough guy, huh?
That wasn't a statement of my abundance of courage, that was a statement of your absence of courage. So basically, Cases had an 8-minute rant calling Renee fat and four-eyed.
I shall call her the rotund four-eyed lady. So the rotund four-eyed lady, because this is what I do from the rotund four-eyed lady's video. Now, the four-eyed rotund lady who you can see over there, hello, the rotund four-eyed lady has an odd opinion. Let me make this clear to the rotund four-eyed lady. Let me say this to you, rotund four-eyed lady.
Ain't really this dumb. Okay, so firstly, going off your figures, it's over 7.5%, not 5%. That's a substantial difference in and of itself. And secondly, when I said that you were calling her fat and four-eyed for 8 minutes, I don't mean that you were sitting there for 8 minutes going fat, four-eyed, fat, four-eyed, fat, four-eyed, fat, four-eyed. That's fucking mental, okay? If I was to say I played Monopoly for 4 hours, I wouldn't expect someone to turn around and say, well, no, actually it was only your turn for a quarter of the time, so you only played for 1 hour. No. It means that, playing Monopoly was a consistent theme for 4 hours. You calling her fat and four-eyed was a consistent theme throughout the course of your video. Yeah, funny how these radical feminists are who are so very against judging women by their looks resort to mocking these gender traitors' appearance or shaming their sexuality when it's against someone they don't like.
It must be because, feminism, and they've gone insane. No, I'm not a feminist. Actually, just want to point out, if you'd have bothered to watch the original video, you might have recognized that I'm not a feminist, because that is exactly what I said in the video. So, why the hell didn't you actually watch the video that you're responding to? This way, you wouldn't be calling me a feminist, let alone a radical feminist, because you'd have realized that I expressly stated in that video that I'm not a feminist. I do like cows, though. Meh.
Okay, you've won 1 point here, well done. I hope that you treasure it forever. Now, yes, when I watched your video, I only watched it through once. I was distracted a few times by people talking as I was watching it, and I made my response a few days later. Now, that's something which I completely missed. Now, yes, it may be bad that I just assumed that you were a radical feminist, but given the track record from what I have seen of you, I don't think it's an unreasonable assumption. You're constantly mocking MRAs, and I've seen you sucking up to radical feminists quite a lot, and I don't think I've ever actually seen you have a disagreement with them. So I simply assumed that since everything I saw, which has been quite a substantial sample, is of you agreeing with radical feminists, and none of that is of you disagreeing, then, see how I got that impression there? In Renee's video, she was sticking up for Dawkins, saying that in her personal experience, the idea of hell was more traumatic than being raped. Here's the thing, Cases. That was her personal experience. That's all she was saying there.
Just one problem, Jamesy boy. She expressly stated that she did not care, and she used far more crude words than those, that what she was saying was anecdotal, nor did she care for actual evidence. So that was something that was expressly stated in her video. If she had not have said that, I would have said, okay, it's your personal opinion. You're entitled to it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. It's illogical. It's not what other people show, but fine. Your personal opinion, I don't care. But when she said, oh no, it's an anecdote and I don't care, and when she expressed that she didn't care for facts, then I had a big problem with the video. And I expressed my problem with the video. So, moo, you idiots.
So I think here we can see where the main stem of our disagreements came from. We had far different interpretations of Renee's video. So you watched it, you assumed the worst of her, probably because you don't like her. I like her, so I assumed the best. That's kind of human nature there. So, when you watched it, you thought that she was basically saying, well, this is my experience, and therefore I can apply that to the whole group. I watched it and I thought that she was saying, this is my experience. There are people for whom rape was less traumatic than the threats of hell. Now, Dawkins wasn't talking about rape. He was talking about the less severe forms of sexual assault, things like fondling, which don't cause physical harm. And it stands to reason that, for example, if 1% of people who've been raped found the threats of hell worse, there's going to be a far higher percentage of those who had less severe forms of sexual assault, less traumatic than hell. So, 1% of the rape group, out the fondling group, perhaps 80%. I don't know the figures, but it stands to reason that that group is going to be substantially higher than the other one.
The fact that she was told when she was a little girl that there was a hell, than she is by being raped and by being beaten as a child. Beaten quite badly, from what I understand. Now, this should be fine. This is her personal opinion. For her, she says, oh, well, knowing there was a hell as a child is worse than being raped and worse than being beaten. This is entirely a personal thing. I can write that off at that point and say, okay, the rotund four-eyed lady has an odd opinion. But then she goes on to say, I know this is anecdotal and I don't give an F.
And God and Christianity, I'm here to tell you, and I don't care if you fucking call this an anecdote or whatever, personal experiences count.
Okay, so what she said is that personal experiences count, which they do. They count in as far as she can now say that the group for which rape is less traumatic than hell is non-zero. She didn't say that her experiences necessarily apply to the entire group. And I've confirmed this with her after I spoke to her briefly, just to make sure that I did actually have the right end of the stick there, and to make sure that I wasn't wrong. She was simply giving her personal experiences and her opinions based on those experiences and some reasoning there. She isn't saying that anybody who disagrees is definitely wrong and that they're a moron for disagreeing. The way I see it, to tell a rape victim who has coped exceptionally well that there's something wrong with them for coping that well is just as bad as telling someone to get over their rape.
Except for one little problem. I never said that.
Okay, well, I'm glad we're actually on the same page there. As I said, big oversight on my part. I only watched your video once. I was distracted whilst watching it, and I replied a few days later when my memory of most of what you said was somewhat hazy. Most of what I remembered from your video was stuff like this.
Given her disposition in this video, which I found offensive, that she appears to be as thick as a brick, to me this seems absolutely stupid. I'm dealing with a lady here that is more traumatized by the fact that she was told when she was a little girl that there was a hell than she is by being raped and by being beaten as a child. Okay, the rotund four-eyed lady has an odd opinion.
he makes a couple of other claims. Rape, he claims that rape's a physical thing, and therefore it's just automatically worse.
Again, I'm gonna have to ask you to kindly actually watch my video before you respond to it. This way you won't be dreaming up everything that you think I'm saying and just putting it together in some strange video and accuse me of saying things which I didn't say.
Okay, I got that bit wrong. Like I said before, distracted whilst watching the video, blah blah blah. Here's something you did say though about Renee's opinion, which is complete bullshit. Nowhere did she state this.
And you seem to suggest that physical abuse can't leave mental scars, i.e. physical abuse cannot transfer itself at all into psychological suffering for the victim. Either that or have yourself diagnosed for severe ADHD problems, because I never said anything to that effect. What I did say is that when you look at the facts, when you look at the shelters, when you look at the statistics, when you look at who needs counseling, it is really those that have been raped, those that have suffered sexual abuse of one nature or the other. And then you compare and contrast that with those that actually end up needing psychological help, the certified sort, those that actually need crisis shelters because they were told there's a hell, or because they were told there's a God when they were children, and you weigh those numbers up against each other, you'll find that it lies heavily in favor of those rape victims, those sexual abuse victims. You'll find that they're the ones that need the help. And that is the basis of my argument. And that is why I said that rape is clearly, based upon that information, the thing that inflicts far greater psychological harm than being told there's a God. Again, this idea of, I was told there's a God. I can now claim parity with the suffering of rape victims.
And that's not what I was saying. Let me just remind you of this.
I understand both Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris have made statements to the effect of saying that child indoctrination in relation to telling children about hell is actually far worse than rape.
And that's a position neither Dawkins nor Harris hold. What Dawkins has said is that he thinks the less severe forms of sexual abuse, one-off groping for example, is less damaging than being indoctrinated into a belief in hell. And to conflate the two, like Watson did, is trivializing rape. Harris's position is not about indoctrination into a belief in hell. It's about the overall effects of religion as a whole in today's society.
It's risible and it's so easily dismissed that it's hardly worth my time saying, but since you're a little thick, and this is coming from someone with a cow on his head, I really feel shocked that I have to reiterate this for you, but so be it. I have reiterated it.
And as for the, if it's so bad, why aren't there support group things? Well, firstly, that's because religion is commonly viewed as a good thing, and secondly, that's the whole fucking point of the churches which preach it.
So, once more, we've moved to the facile, because we can juxtapose churches with things like rape crisis shelters, with things like professional psychology, and we can somehow juxtapose the people that attend church services for any number of reasons, probably a large myriad of them, and we can somehow juxtapose those who find themselves in crisis shelters, needing professional psychological counseling, and actual medication for the suffering they've gone through due to the fact that they've been raped.
And again, I was not defending the idea that a belief in hell tends to be more traumatic than rape. I specifically stated that this was not the case multiple times. I was talking about things like one-off groping, which doesn't cause physical harm, and only causes mental harm. And with events like this, it's quite rare that people need extensive counselling. What you cut off there was me explaining that a technique churches use to keep members is the fear of hell. Invent a problem to put people into a state of fear, which in many cases lasts for their whole lives, and then you sell them the cure. This is such a powerful technique that it's used as an argument to make people believe in God. Perhaps you're aware of Pascal's wager. I think the main reason that this generally isn't seen as abuse, just like with circumcision, is that most people and nearly all governments are simply afraid to step on religion's toes. As I said before, we don't there's certain ideas which we don't teach children at a very young age, such as the concepts of sex and death, because they're not mentally developed enough to be able to handle those concepts. And like I said, that's why we have age ratings on films. Now, the way that hell is taught to certain children, the imagery of them suffering for all eternity in a lake of fire, being eaten by maggots from the inside out, and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of that is far more horrific than anything you see in X-rated horror movies, and it's taught as literal truth to them. And at a really young age, that, I don't see how, if they actually believe that it's not going to have a negative effect on them. There's something called religious trauma syndrome, which is a type of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's only recently being understood. I'll leave a few links below. Now, with post-traumatic stress disorder, a traumatic event is one in which a person experiences or witnesses actual or threatened death or serious injury, or a threat to the physical integrity of self or others. And what separates complex post-traumatic stress is a prolonged repeated trauma, which can only be there when the victim is in a state of captivity under the control of the perpetrator, which is exactly what you see in this form of indoctrination. Some of the symptoms of CPTSD are difficulties regulating emotions, including symptoms such as persistent sadness, suicidal thought, explosive anger, covert anger, which is characteristic of passive-aggressive behaviour, changes in self-perception such as sense of helplessness, shame, guilt, stigma, alterations in relations with others, including isolation, distrust, or repeated search for a rescuer, loss of or changes in one's sense of meaning, which may include a loss of sustaining faith or a sense of hopelessness and despair. I've seen this countless times in fundamentalist Christians and stories from ex-Christians. Even on YouTube, there are plenty of atheists who still have that fear in the back of their minds, even though they know it's irrational. And for a large number of them, fear of hell was the hardest thing to let go of. And I wasn't aware of this before I started making this video, but there's actually thousands of websites offering advice and counselling for those with fear of hell. For some people, it really is a crippling fear. Now, I'm not saying that it's an absolute fact that it tends to be more harmful. I'm not a psychologist. I'm of course not defending at all any of the sexual abuse which takes place, and those who do that should be severely punished and never be allowed to work with children. But It does seem like a plausible hypothesis which shouldn't simply be written off as ridiculous. And I'd really like to see more studies on this because hard data as to how common it is are quite hard to find, but judging by the number of sites dedicated to fixing that phobia, it does seem to be pretty damn common.
Okay, this is gone beyond facile, and you cannot seriously expect me to entertain this, you moron. So I won't.
He's also massively misrepresenting what Dawkins and Harris were actually saying.
It reads, if I could wave a magic wand and get rid of either rape or religion, I would not hesitate to get rid of religion. Now, it's my understanding Dawkins has made comments to similar effect, or at least this is what I gleaned from the Rotund Four-Eyed Lady's video.
And again, that isn't Dawkins' position.
Now,
he's also massively misrepresenting what Dawkins and Harris were actually saying. If I could wave a magic wand and get rid of either rape or religion, I would not hesitate to get rid of religion.
If I could wave a magic wand and get rid of either rape or religion, I would not hesitate to get rid of religion.
Yes, well done, you quoted one thing correctly. And of course what you just said is exactly the same as...
Understand both Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris have made statements to the effect of saying that child indoctrination in relation to telling children about hell is actually far worse than rape.
Regarding the accusations of sexual abuse of children by Catholic priests, deplorable and disgusting as those abuses are, they are not so harmful to the children as the grievous mental harm in bringing up the children Catholic in the first place. I had a letter from a woman in America.
So there you have it, from the horse's mouth, well, as close to the horse's mouth as you're going to get. The moron over there just read out what Richard Dawkins has said. And it is illogical to me to suggest that being brought up Catholic is in any way equivocal to sexual abuse that children would suffer.
And the master of quote mining strikes again. Here's the bit that he left out. I can't speak about the really grave sexual abuse that obviously happens sometimes, which actually causes violent physical pain to the altar boy or whoever it is. But I suspect that most of the sexual abuse priests are accused of is comparatively mild. A little bit of fondling, perhaps.
Within any circumstance. He's saying it is worse to be brought up Catholic. It is more detrimental and harmful to the child to be brought up Catholic than actually suffering sexual abuse. And the big problem that I have with this is the facts don't bear this out. There's no evidence for this. The evidence he had for this is some anecdotes from some lady somewhere in the USA that wrote him a letter that touched his little atheist heart, and he figured he'd say something really stupid, which is what he did. Now, you can defend this from here until sunup, James. It remains illogical, and it does not follow. So, carry on. Go on that bandwagon. I really don't care. It's a joke. It's risible. I cannot take it seriously.
I think I've pretty much covered this already now. Again, could certainly be wrong, but it seems like it could be a valid hypothesis which shouldn't simply be brushed aside as absurd. Condemning condom use in a continent where 6,000 people die of AIDS every day, And that's a 9/11 every 12 hours. And perhaps these people don't matter to you cases because they have dark skin. I'll bring this up now because at the end of his original video, he basically said that I should have the courage to call him a racist, like I implied. Didn't seem like a good point to end on, so I cut that bit. But what I was doing there, Cases, wasn't being serious, I was just being an asshole, like you are to people who you disagree with.
At this point in his video, James has decided that he's going to argue that religion is more harmful, more deleterious to society than rape is, or has caused more harm over the ages. Now, he makes several points in relation to this. For example, the Catholic Church for forbidding or condemning the use of condoms, and this is primarily something that is adopted by the African population. Blah 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 blah. And he cites several other examples, all of which I am happy to accept on a prima facie basis. Now, the argument is stupid and easily refuted. When you're dealing with rape, it is something that has been proven to cause actual harm. You're guaranteed when it happens that it's going to cause harm. In 100% of cases, rape will cause harm. It is rape by definition, unwanted forcible penetration. Okay? Now, you're guaranteed this. When it comes to religion, you're not always guaranteed harm. There are a lot of religious groups that do charity work, etc. Blah, 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 blah.
Okay, there's a lot to respond to there. Firstly, rape causes harm in 100% of cases. Of course, completely 100% agree with you there. Say rape is penetration. That's certainly one form of rape. That's probably by far the most common as well, but there's also rape by envelopment. That's a topic for another video. Now you say, well, rape causes harm in 100% of cases. Religion doesn't cause harm in 100% of cases. In fact, in some cases, it can actually be good. Okay, yeah, also agree with you there, but that's not the checkmate argument you think it is. You still have to weigh up the total harm minus the total good from each group. So rape, total harm is certainly a large amount. The good is 0. Religion, large amount of harm, small amount of good. So take the harm away from the good away from the harm. Is the harm still bigger than the harm from rape? And I still think that is debatable. I don't think that it's something which you can just write off as just completely nonsense. Let's give you an analogy there to show why the 100% argument thing fails. Supposing we've got two groups. Group 1, 6 people, guy in front of them punches them all in the face. Now that guy's representing rape. In 100% of cases, he's causing them harm. In the other group, instead of a guy punching him in the face, there's a guy with a gun. Now this gun represents religion. It has 6 chambers. In one chamber we have a bullet, which is going to kill someone when you shoot him in the face. In 2 of the chambers, say, it's completely empty, nothing's going to happen. And in the other 3 chambers, there's a wad of £50 notes rolled up, and when he fires it, there's a small amount of explosive which just makes it fall out of the end and land in the person's hand, doing a small amount of good, making them feel better. You have the option to stop one of those groups. I think you'd still stop the one where the guy's got a gun and is going to end up killing someone, rather than stopping the group where a few people get punched in the face. So yeah, I mean, it's not the checkmate argument you think it is.
But even if you dismiss all of this, and you say that by and large, as a whole, religion is deleterious to society, that's fine. You assume by removing religion from the equation that the problems which accompany it will disappear. Yet what you seem to fail to recognize is that religion is a symptom, not really a cause. You can remove religion, prejudice will remain. If you look at you look at how religions seem to have formed, and you look at the demography of religion today, you can see that religions appear to hold quite strongly to perceived ethnic or demographic groups in that way. So it suggests to me there's something more fundamental at play than religion itself. Just by assuming that religion's going to go away, all ignorance, all prejudice, all hate, all wars, all the problems that come along with it are going to disappear as well, seems to me fundamentally flawed, as it fails to deal with the basis of human psychology which surrounds religion. You can remove religion and find that something else will come to stand in its stead very easily. There's so many doctrines that can cause harm, and removing religion is no insurance that that is not going to happen. But if you remove rape, you are assured that in 100% of the cases, harm will be removed in relation to rape. It is a guarantee. By removing religion, there is no guarantee that all the other evils that come along with it, or that we commonly see as synonymous with religion, will disappear. Therefore, I find that your argument is weak, and I dismiss it.
No, I don't think that get rid of religion and everything's just going to be perfect. There's plenty of other problems there as well. There's still plenty of prejudices out there which aren't because of religion. But that doesn't mean that religion isn't bad, or that the world wouldn't be better off without it. There's plenty of diseases other than cancer, and 100% of people who don't get cancer die. That doesn't mean that the world wouldn't be a better place if you got rid of cancer. Clearly that's flawed there. And yeah, of course, I know that there's deeper psychological reasons behind all of this thing, and it's a deep and nuanced topic, blah, blah, blah. But religion certainly exacerbates a lot of prejudices, and in some cases, many of which I listed, religion is the direct cause. The reason why the Catholics are trying to stop people use condoms is because of their religion. There would be no other basis for that particular form of harm, as was the case with many of the other things I listed. Now, if you're to extend that to, if you're going to extend that to religion and say, well, you've got to look at the deeper psychological reasons for it, and that without religion, these deeper psychological things are going to still cause harm, you have to still extend the same thing to rape. It's not just a random fucking occurrence, it's not all men are potential rapists. It's not like just some random event. The people who do these crimes are mentally fucked up. They're people who have a desire to cause harm to other people. Now, if you could wave a magic wand and suddenly they'd just stop raping, they'd still have that desire to harm other people. So, they'd end up stabbing or mugging or any other number of things. So yeah, you have to really extend for your argument to hold. You have to extend it to rape as well, which you're not doing. And I'm not saying necessarily that I agree with Harris or Dawkins. I'm just saying that they do have some reasoning behind what they're saying, and I don't think it should just be laughed off as madness without more thoughts. I think there is a genuine debate there. And finally, let's just make this clear one more time, since you ignored it so many times in my previous video. Neither Harris nor Dawkins have said that teaching a child about hell is worse than rape. Richard Dawkins specifically specified that he couldn't speak for those extreme cases. He was talking about mild cases such as a one-off fondling. Harris was talking about the overall effects of religion and rape worldwide. So yeah, don't fucking pull that fucking card again. I made that clear so many times in my previous video. And yes, I did make a few mistakes and miss a few things in Case's video because I got sort of rushed watching it. I'll try to be much more careful with that in the future and spend more time. I won't just be rushing videos out that quickly. So to the feminists, I'm really sorry that I lumped that guy in with you. I won't do that again. So until next time guys, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.